Hi everybody, this is Monica Main and I'm doing an update for 2012. Right now we're in the summer of 2012 and I'd like to share with you details on exactly where to invest in the United States when it comes to commercial property acquisitions. Now, commercial property acquisitions covers quite a bit, so mostly what my forte is apartment building investing, which are 5 units and up or higher, and of course mobile home park transactions as well. So I mostly specialize in those two, but also lately I've been doing a lot of multi-family, multi-unit properties, which are usually 2 to 4 units. So that would be duplexes, triplexes, and quads, as I call them, which are fourplexes. And so those are the main ways of getting involved in passive income real estate that have the highest profit levels. And so looking at the United States is going to be sort of a boring video because you're going to be looking at the same screen the entire time, but I'm going to quickly go over different areas of the country that are best to invest in. Now, mind you, I will tell you from experience that the best route to take would be to start with your own backyard, and if you are not in a profit opportunity area, then of course expand out from there. So try to get as close to your home state or where you plan on living if you plan on moving soon, where you plan on living in the next 5 years or so to start building your real estate empire in that area. Okay, now I am in the Los Angeles County area of California, and I have a lot of students that are from Southern California. They're always asking me where the best profit opportunities are, and I will tell you that there are not very many profit opportunities in LA and Orange County or San Diego counties, but your best profit opportunities are going to be San Bernardino and Riverside counties going inland, and it's going to be smaller apartment buildings, multi-family structures, which are your 2 to 4 units, and also your mobile home parks. Same applies for up north, except that you can add self-storage to that as well because there's a lot of self-storage opportunities up there. I have yet to make any partnership deal work in Washington State or Oregon because the cap rates are too low. People are still asking too much money for their properties, and the profit opportunities are simply not there unless you're putting 50% cash down. And of course, leveraging your cash that way is just not a smart idea. And so if you're in Oregon or Washington, you're going to start having to look at different areas of the country. Oregon happens to have the lowest vacancy level in the United States right now, and therefore you have a lot of larger investment groups coming in to stabilize their investments by investing in stabilized apartment buildings, which would be in the Oregon area. So it's very difficult to compete with that if you're in that area. If you're in Nevada, I would say forget it. I would not even consider investing in anything except possibly for mobile home parks if it's a really good cash cow deal. Otherwise, Nevada is really a waste of time right now, especially the Las Vegas area. So I had a lot of investor partners focus in on that area and get a lot of REO or foreclosure apartment buildings in that area, and they happen to have lost their ass in the last couple of years thinking that they bought at the bottom of the market, and the market keeps going down. So in the majority of the areas in the United States, a lot of our economies in each local area have stabilized for the most part, but it seems like Las Vegas is still continuing to slowly spiral downward. Of course, there's going to be a bottom there somewhere, but it doesn't seem like we've touched that yet. So I'd stay away from Nevada for now as a whole. I have yet to make any deal work in Utah or Colorado. Again, same thing applies where we have issues with the cap rates being still too low. I've had students of mine do well in Salt Lake City, so if you happen to live in that area, then you might want to consider some apartment building deals there as well as mobile home park deals in the Utah area, namely Salt Lake City. If you're in Colorado, you're going to be hitting your head up against a brick wall trying to find different deals there because everything seems to be really high and the cap rates are low, so profitability is not there. I have yet to make any deal work in Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, or Nebraska, so let's not talk about those. If you happen to live in those areas, by all means, check out any mobile home park deal you could find, any apartment building deal, any multifamily, but you're looking for major markets. So no matter where you are in the country, you are looking for something called a major market, which is a population size of 250,000 or higher. So you're looking for a major market no matter where you are, which means that you're going to stick with the larger cities. And I don't know that there are too many in those Dust Bowl areas right there. So if you live there, that's your job to check it out and do some research. But aside from that, to this day, I have yet to make any deals work there. Idaho is a very stabilized market, especially in the larger cities of Idaho. If you happen to live there or you're from Washington State or Oregon, you might want to check out those areas in the major markets of Idaho, especially when it comes to apartment buildings or also mobile home parks, but there are far and few between mobile home park deals in Idaho. You would have to focus in on building deals in that area. Arizona is always a tricky state because I have a lot of students trying to always hit me up with partnership deals for apartment buildings in Arizona. That's a big no-no right now. They had a major political issue going on with immigration there. And since 2009, it's been a major loss for a lot of people that own apartment buildings there because the majority of who they rented to in many areas were immigrants, illegal immigrants, and many of them have been pushed out. And so a lot of the apartment buildings that you're going to be dealing with over there, especially foreclosures, is going to have an occupancy level of anywhere from 25 to 50% if they're lucky. And so you can't work with an environment like that. So if you're dealing with mobile home parks, that's a different story. So if you're in Arizona, check out mobile home park deals. Those are cash cows in most cases because you have a lot of retirees moving to Arizona. However, when you're dealing with apartment building deals, really forget about Arizona for now. You could also maybe possibly consider single family residences there or single family homes if you're interested in getting those, or smaller multi-unit families like 2 to 4 units. However, I would stay away from multifamily altogether or even single family residences and only focus in on mobile home parks when it comes to Arizona. Same thing applies to New Mexico. Not a lot going on. You will have a lot of stabilized apartment buildings in Albuquerque, but they're far and few between, and unless you live there, I wouldn't even recommend looking at anything over there. Okay, then we have Kansas, Oklahoma. That area, very, very solid, especially in your major markets for both mobile home parks and apartment buildings, as well as your multifamily 2 to 4 units, single family residences as well. That area seems to be really heating up and having a lot of really good solid profit opportunities, especially for out-of-state investors that are looking for the best ways to leverage their investment. So Kansas and Oklahoma are really, really good solid investment opportunities. Same with Texas, but Texas is very difficult to do business with if you are an out-of-state investor unless you are in the state of Texas. So I would recommend staying away from Austin because it's too overpriced. Stay away from El Paso because there's too much drug trafficking, riffraff going on there. But aside from that, consider Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Killeen, Corpus Christi, and even Waco. Those are really good, solid cash flow opportunities for both mobile home parks as well as REO or foreclosure apartment buildings, and of course, stabilized apartment building opportunities as well. So really good, solid area, especially if you live in that area. But again, be careful if you're an out-of-state investor because Texas tends to hate out-of-state investors. And if you are trying to get an REO building that is completely vacant and has absolutely no tenants whatsoever, you're going to have a very difficult time working with the building departments there if you're an out-of-state investor. They just simply don't like out-of-staters coming in and, quote unquote, taking over their state. And so you want to avoid that if you are looking for an REO property that is completely abandoned and vacant, because you're going to have a very difficult time getting it up and running without a bunch of red tape. So if you are looking for any properties that are REOs, which are foreclosures that are completely boarded up, it usually loses its certificate of occupancy in some states like Texas and Florida. And so you want to get a property that has at least 1 or 2 tenants left, because as long as there's 1 or 2 tenants left in a foreclosed property, they cannot pull the certificate of occupancy unless, of course, they've red tagged the place for one reason or another because it's unsafe and uninhabitable. Otherwise, it will not lose its certificate of occupancy if it has at least 1 tenant left. And so you want to pick up a building that has a minimal occupancy level if you're looking for any foreclosures in any area of the country, just to be safe. And by the way, I would never recommend that any of you look for foreclosures or complete rehab jobs unless you are either A, experienced with rehab, B, some kind of handyman or contractor, or C, that's right up your alley and something that you really want to do, because rehab is very time consuming and quite frustrating, but the overall result of it can be extremely profitable. So it's something that you really have to have the mindset for to be able to pull off. Otherwise, look for stabilized investments or maybe poorly performing properties that just need a push as far as better management for lease up, or maybe just some cosmetic work here and there. But total rehab, gut to the studs job should be left for people that really want to do hands-on work to save money or are experienced with contracting. Okay, so we have Louisiana and Arkansas. I have yet to make a deal work in either one of those areas. I don't know what's going on with those areas, quite honestly. Whenever I get my partnership deals that come in, I don't get them typically in those areas, so I can only assume, considering the fact that I get deals from pretty much every other area of the country, that there's really not a lot going on there. I have a lot of people that have been from the New Orleans area that live there, that still say that they're struggling to rebuild there and so forth. There are a lot of government grant programs actually in the New Orleans area. So if you're interested in rebuilding, you would have to be from that area and look into those state grants for rebuilding the New Orleans area. Aside from that, though, there's really nothing going on as far as any profitability that I have seen in either one of those areas. Mississippi has some profit opportunity here and there, but again, it's not an area that you want to flock to if you're not from Mississippi. Same with Alabama. So there are apartment building deals and mobile home park deals to be had, but they are far and few between in both of those areas. So unless you live there, I wouldn't recommend, pounding pavement to get over there. Missouri, especially the greater St. Louis area, lots of profit opportunities, especially with foreclosures. So definitely take a look at that. The greater Chicago area in Illinois, lots of profit opportunities, but not in the city of Chicago. And I have yet to see anything come from Springfield or any other place in Illinois. So just to let you know, Chicago's it, but it's the greater outskirts suburbia part, not in the city of Chicago. Iowa, lots of very stabilized apartment building deals to be had there. Very good profit opportunities in your major markets. Same with Minnesota and Wisconsin as well. And believe it or not, even though your big states for mobile home parks are California, Arizona, Texas, and Florida, you have actually quite a few very high profit opportunity mobile home park deals in the Midwest as well as the Northeast as well. So definitely something to check out if that's the area that you live in. Florida, definitely look at Florida if you live in Florida, especially for mobile home park deals. The LTVs are still low as of right now, which is the summer of 2012, but they're probably going to be popping up sort of later in the year, maybe around the fall or winter time. So we want to still not really look so much at stabilized investments or apartment buildings that require a down payment. Otherwise, we're putting 35% down on a property there, unless it's an SBA loan, which of course it's only 10% no matter where you are, as long as it is a stabilized profit opportunity or property. So for Florida, definitely look at the mobile home parks. Lots of profit opportunities there. But also if you're doing any bank direct foreclosure deal where you can actually get bank funding from the property owner, which would be the bank who would foreclose on the property, that's definitely a green light on Florida for that, because there's a lot of opportunity for that as well, since a lot of banks are struggling to sell the property due to the fact that many investors have pulled out of Florida. So if you're looking at doing foreclosures, again, try to get those that have a very low occupancy and not those that have no occupancy. So if you can find some low occupancy REO properties in Florida, definitely go for it, especially if you live there and you're willing to put in the elbow grease to get it up and running and get your occupancy level up. Do some bank direct funding where you're dealing directly with the bank who owns the foreclosure, and they will open up a new mortgage for you essentially. Okay, Georgia is a big hot spot even still, especially the greater Atlanta area. I will tell you, you will be paying a lot of money when you're trying to get stabilized investments there, because many people have gone in there and basically did a gut to the studs rehab job and leased it up, and you're going to be paying a pretty penny for all of that. So Georgia, especially Atlanta, is really good to get deals for those of you that are willing to go into some pretty rough areas in Atlanta and go in and rehab some of these buildings. You could literally get them as low as $1,500 to $2,500 a door, but you have to go in there and do extensive rehab, and some of those areas are very, very dangerous. So you'd have to be carrying and packing some heat if you wanted to pull off some of these rehab jobs. And so profitability is there, but you don't know if it's really worth it or not unless you live there or have a crew there that can handle such a dangerous type of proposition. Lots of good mobile home park deals to be had in Georgia as well. So again, if you live in that area or you're looking to expand out from where you are because you're not finding anything in your local area, Georgia is definitely something to take a look at. The Carolinas are really good for stabilized investments. A lot of investors and investment groups have gone into the Carolinas, so you want to stay away from the water area here because those are the overpriced investments, and stay inland, especially if you live in those areas. If you don't live in the Carolinas, it's really pointless to try to invest there because you're not going to have an overabundance of apartment building deals or mobile home park deals in those areas to invest in. Same goes for West Virginia and Virginia as well. Same rules apply as the Carolinas, where you want to stay away from the water and stay inland, but you're going to have a lot of people looking for stabilized investments in those areas, and so there's a lot of competition there. Kentucky, I have never made anything work in Kentucky. If you live there, Stay with your major markets or your largest cities that you possibly can. Tennessee is also a very solid area to invest in commercial property, in apartment buildings, and also single family residences, multifamily, everything. The only area to stay away from is Memphis. Memphis is a very extremely depressed area. Outside of that, every other major market in Tennessee is awesome for pretty much everything. In fact, that's the only state in the United States that I could tell you with full confidence that you could pretty much invest in anything and everything, including commercial, including industrial warehouse, including office buildings, and you would do well in Tennessee. The Midwest, Indiana, Ohio. Ohio's pretty much off the charts for me. I don't deal with Ohio anymore. There's a lot of problems with your LTVs trying to get loans and funding for Ohio. The LTVs are 65%, same with Michigan, 65%, very difficult to get funding. Indiana has some solid opportunities, especially in Indianapolis, but you want to stay away from the northern part, especially the parts that border Michigan, because you're going to find some problems getting kind of funding for any deal that you have near Michigan. Michigan is like guilty by associations, state where nobody really wants to have anything to do with it. However, with Michigan, strangely enough, there's a lot of actual profit opportunities to be had in Detroit, believe it or not. Now, when I say Detroit, I mean greater Detroit, which means the greater Detroit suburbs, mostly the western suburbs, mostly with single-family residences, believe it or not. And I have found quite a few mobile home park deals that have been high profit opportunities in the state of Michigan, believe it or not. And they were poorly performing, and they've been able to kick out some major cash in a poorly performing state. So nobody seems to be looking for mobile home parks in Michigan, which means that many of these sellers and banks who are selling them are dropping the price, and there's less competition. So that would be good news for you if you live in Michigan. Check out the mobile home park deals there. Same with Indiana and Ohio. Not a lot of competition when it comes to mobile home parks, because many times people are looking at mobile home parks in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California, and they're sort of skipping out on the possible opportunities elsewhere, especially in the colder states. And so you might want to check those out as well. Upstate New York is really good for smaller multifamilies. Those would be your 2 to 4 units. In addition to that, you could actually find, believe it or not, far and few between, some really good profit opportunities with mobile home parks here. So definitely something to check out if you live in the area. Pennsylvania, avoid Pittsburgh at all costs, but you can check out the Philadelphia area, especially with apartment buildings. If you have any rehab experience, you'll find a lot of opportunities with foreclosures that are guts and the studs rehab jobs in Philadelphia. So definitely something to consider if you're in that area. New Jersey, we don't really have a lot of stuff that's worked out since 2009 in New Jersey, and same with New York City, that area. Manhattan, not a lot of stuff that's been working out because it's still overpriced in those areas. But if you live in those areas, definitely check it out by all means, because you never know what you might run up against, or run up with, I should say. Delaware, I've never even had one partnership deal ever be submitted for Delaware, so I don't have any experience with Delaware. Most of my students that are from that area will invest in the greater Baltimore area or Philadelphia. So greater Baltimore area, up-and-coming area, they're doing a lot of work to make it an up-and-coming area, and therefore if you're interested in any rehab or getting Class D properties that need a lot of rehab and need a lot of work, then definitely Baltimore, Maryland is definitely your best bet. Lots of profit opportunities to be had there. Rhode Island, Connecticut, don't have any experience with either one of those states in reference to any type of property deals, because there's really not a lot to be had. So check it out if you are in those areas. And I have absolutely no experience with Vermont, Maine, or New Hampshire, because I've not only not received any partnership deals in those areas ever in all the years that I've been doing this, but I'm not really cued in or clued in on anything that's going on in those areas. So if you live in those areas, check it out. But more than likely, if you're in these areas, you're going to be finding yourself trickling down to Philadelphia, Baltimore, maybe some other areas in the Midwest, maybe Detroit, maybe upstate New York, or some areas where you could actually find some stuff. I've had students that invest in Georgia, and they're in LA. So, I mean, if you have your mindset to where you want to set up your entire empire in a certain state, even if it is 3,000 miles away, by all means you could pull it off. But all of your property deals will have to be segregated in the one state and the one area only, and you don't want to be spreading yourself thin amongst many states. So once you get started somewhere, especially if it's way away from your backyard, then you definitely want to segregate yourself in that state and that area only. Okay, everybody, this is Monica Mann signing off, and I'll see you at the top.